I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is still out on assignment. Did he sneak back the other day? I think he snuck back in the other day. Now he disappeared again.
I bet he's back this weekend.
Yeah, you better know it. Don't start none, Charles. Don't start none. Figure out how he make that happen. Yeah, I get you. Charles Bishop is talking about Prairie View's homecoming. It's going down this weekend, and for those that have had a chance, far West Coast, you got the greatest homecoming on earth. David Rhodes just spent his time down there. You got a big time homecoming at Jackson State University. A couple weeks ago, Charles had to deal with that and made it happen. Southern does a big homecoming. FAMU does it right. Alabama A&M does it right. Hell, all HBCUs do it right. What about that? But a good one, if you ain't seen it out in these parts, furthest west of the Mississippi, greatest homecoming, getting down in what they call a hill. They get a little different in the hill over there in Florida. A little different over there in the field in Alabama. But it's certainly one for the record books in the hill. And what I love about it, it's RV down now. And guess who started the RVs? And I have it recorded history as a professor. I got the date stamps to prove it in all its grandeur. With that being said, that's enough of that. We'll get back to it. But Charles pulled it out of me. I was trying to be low key here on the East Coast, but sometimes you got to let your chest out a little bit. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Doc. Still recuperating from the weekend. Jackson State and FAMU.
This man still drinking coffee 2 days back.
Man, and I haven't even got to my homecoming yet. That's another week. So, cheers.
Yeah, that's the sad part. She ain't had to deal with that yet.
Yeah, not yet.
You're not 21 no more.
No, not even close.
David, I see you sitting back, and I see you got a big thing of water as you tried to, like you was 21 this past weekend and figured it out that not quite.
Now, not in football at least, but everything else was a blast down in Greensboro. I'll say that.
How are you gonna bring up football?
You got
my man, and I let y'all two have out in terms of what y'all do on HBCU Nightly because it's entertaining. And we get a bird's eye view of what it means to be North Carolina A&T versus North Carolina Central with Josh Sims Sr. So I wouldn't even go there. We just going to enjoy our time. You're in a safe space, as they like to say.
David, was that you co-signing in the press conference too? I agree.
Well, yeah, listen, man. I've seen some tense press conferences. That one took the cake, sir.
To be honest with it, that deserved to be tense.
Absolutely.
With all respect to the coach, obviously he's got to do his stuff. Respect for the Aggies, as much as we joke, we might not like decisions that were made, but that's a proud HBCU program coming off, one of its highest of highs as it was tackling the Celebration Bowl like none other. And now to see where it is, to be frank with you, is quite sad. So you all had a right to have a tense press conference. And I could tell it wasn't just about the coach. He just happened to be the one in front. This was a message to the administrators in terms of the AD office and the new president. You all calling that area the chancellor. make sure they understood that, you know, you can make decisions that you make, but you better get it right.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate what you're doing in terms of being the largest HBCU in enrollment. Chancellor Martin, congratulations on what he brought to the table. Academically, up there, R2 status, seeking R1 status. And as a professor, I ultimately understand. But you got to be able to play both sides of this. This can't be no one trick pony. You got to be able to do it all. So I appreciate what y'all brought to the table. And Samaj out here in the Houston area, you know, we go back. So I understand. He claiming it and he all in it for North Carolina, but he got his roots in Texas. And trust me, we understand a little something about football around here, even though we trying to figure it out on the gridiron for many different levels. But we'll leave that for a different talk. With that being said, let me do this right. Welcome to episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show. And those that know, they got that blast out there. Show and podcast, a show discovering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. Simply put, we call it HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our 12:30 a.m. studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer and a beautiful home, Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. And I'm going to have to let Charles wear that today. Again, I'm in Washington, D.C., Rhodes over there. Rhode Island, that's where you at now? I mean, I know you move around quite a bit too, but they ain't even know brothers is up there, but you holding it down. That correct, David?
Yeah, that is correct. And believe it or not, there's more brothers than you think up here, man.
Oh, good.
A lot of Cape Verdeans up here, man. So there's more brothers than you realize up here.
Hey, well, let the world know that we everywhere.
We are.
As they would say. With that being said, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab and radio show is sponsored by THG Agency. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that being said, Charles, tell us what's on your mind. What's some news of the day?
Yeah, let's start off and let's take a look at the SWAC Football Weekly Honors. The Southwestern Athletic Conference has tabbed Jackson State's Irv Mulligan, Southern's Kendrick Grimes, Grambling State's Johnny Schifano, and Andrew Jones, along with Bethune-Cookman's Dennis Palmer for SWAC Football Weekly Honors for their outstanding performances during this past week of regular season competition. Let's take a look at the co-offensive players of the week. Irv Mulligan, he led the Jackson State rushing attack with 138 yards on 18 carries on the touchdown. He averaged, Dr. Cavil, a whopping 7.8 yards per rush and scored on a run of 51 yards in the first quarter that put the Tigers ahead at the time. The other co-offensive player of the week was Kendrick Grimes for the Jaguars. He led the rushing attack for Southern with 133 yards on 17 carries and a touchdown. He averaged 7.7 yards per rush and scored on a run of 51 yards to put the Jaguars ahead 24-14, subsequently sealing the game. Let's take a look at the defensive player of the week. Andrew Jones, he was once again a dominant force for Grambling's defense. He tallied a game-high 12 tackles and get this 4.5 for loss during the Tigers' 31-21 win over Arkansas Pine Bluff. The losses dropped ball carriers 23 yards, including a half sack, as well as a fourth down stop that forced a change of possession. The specialist of the week was Johnny Schifano from Grambling. He had a big day punting the ball, flipping the field, and pinning UAPB deep in his own territory. He punted the ball 6 times for an average of 42 yards per punt with a long of 60. He placed 5 punts inside the Lions' 15-yard line, with 2 punts being down at the 1-yard line and 1 being down at the 5. And the newcomer of the week is Mr. Palmer. Dennis Palmer from Bethune-Cookman. He enjoyed a breakout performance for the Wildcats in their first win of the season in Mississippi Valley. He rushed for a career-high 126 yards on 27 carries, including a long of 23 yards. It marked the highest run total for a Wildcat on the ground this season. And those are your SWAC players of the week.
Nice stuff. Good stuff. Kudos to SWAC players of the week. 7+ yards. Good gracious, man.
Gashed them.
That is a statement in itself. Well deserved to all of them. But, man, that's amazing. David, do they even allow you still do this in terms of doing the MEAC announcements of the week? forget.
I don't want to, but I will oblige. But before I oblige, shout out to the Lady Aggies. They were selected to win the CAA in women's basketball this week. They got 11 first place votes. I actually ran into Coach Robinson during GHO, and he felt the way about the fact that he didn't get unanimous. So it's going to be fascinating this season. They should be the favorites to win the conference.
I like that attitude from the coaches. I would say this. Let me first say congratulations, boy. I stick to Jay. As Charles said, you already on the basketball.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. It's safer than jumping off the ledge. It's safer than jumping off the ledge.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Let me congratulate my classmate real quick. Tim O'Neill. He won a huge Dominion Energy Charity Classic on the PGA Tour Champions Tour. So definitely wanted to shout out Tim. Great job, man, getting that win.
Shout out to Tim Golf. You know you got to get that in as a golfer, man.
I did.
You're going to hear about it. With
yes,
that nice Jackson State golf bag you got now. And you might need to let him sign it.
I know,
David,
right?
Exactly, David. Go ahead and give some MEAC updates, weekly honors of the week.
Yeah, so MEAC announces the weekly football honors is presented by Coca-Cola. South Carolina State, well, shout out to South Carolina State in general. They pretty much swept all the categories this week. So South Carolina State wide receiver Naj Carter was named the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Offensive Player of the Week, presented by Coca-Cola. South Carolina State defensive lineman Kavion Chisholm earned Defensive Player of the Week honors, while teammates Kyle Galeos and Dyson Roberts were named Rookie and Specialist of the Week, respectively. Ejai Carter, and Naj Carter recorded two touchdown receptions for 82 yards in the Bulldogs' win over Fort Valley State. Chisholm collected 5 solo tackles in the Bulldogs' victory over the Wildcats, adding 2 tackles for a loss, both quarterback sacks for 22 yards. Galeos contributed 6 points with a 25-yard field goal and registered 319 yards on 6 kickoffs, 53.2-yard average with 2 touchbacks. And Roberts, the punter, registered 307 yards on 7 punts, 43.9 average in the Bulldogs' victory. He recorded a log of 67 yards, including 2 kicks inside the 20-yard line, with 1 touchback and 2 kicks of 50-plus yards. So congratulations to all those gentlemen.
Congratulations to the MEAC. We had any shout-outs with the independents going on? Hampton, you know, the way they showed out, if they can't get no love in the...
Believe it or not, I don't think they did. I know that they did have a defensive player that won a Player of the Week with the Shrine Bowl.
OVC,
shout out to my...
Did they give some love over there in the OVC Player of the Week for Tennessee State?
Let me see.
They couldn't get no love either.
Draylon Ellis, he's a Black College Sports Page Player of the Week.
We'll give him on that. We'll see if these OVCs and Coastal Athletic, you know, I still call them Colonial, David, but that ain't your call.
Yeah, I'm verifying to make sure.
While you looking and verifying that, let me give a shout out. There's some other folks thinking about basketball too. SWAC announces men basketball ESPN schedule. You have updates noted in terms of January 6th, Grambling State at Texas Southern, ESPNU. February 3rd, Alcorn State at Grambling, ESPNU. February 17th, Texas Southern at Southern, ESPN. March 3rd, Prairie A&M at Jackson State, ESPNU. So when you think about these dates, it's going to be interesting when you talk about what this looks like in these matchups. Remember, some of these are Monday matchups, so you're talking about men only. Because women go to Thursday, so we'll see if some of those get packed up. You got HBCU Gold still to release their updates, so that's fascinating. On Thursday, we're going to get into some academic updates in terms of that. David, did you find any update in terms of Hampton? Did they get anything from the Colonial? Charles, anything from the OVC? I know you said they got the HBCU award, so
they did not get any awards, believe it or not. Not this week. Even with what happened to us, not this week.
Man, they can't get no love, Charles. Tennessee can't get no love in OVC either.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up real quick and see did Tennessee State get any love this past week? No.
And they'll talk about HBCU news, not talking about it. Shit, y'all people ain't talking about it. But that means
I will say I do like the CAA's pettiness. When they announced the basketball schedule for the conference, there was one school that was missing and didn't get no televised games, and that was Delaware.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they all leave it. That is petty. I can appreciate that. Whatever I say about that, I like the pettiness, though. I'll say this. With that, I'm going to let y'all do some homework. We'll come back on the other side of the break and see if we can get anything. We're going to do our mid-major top 7 announcement. We'll talk about if anybody dropped out, and we'll talk about if they're receiving votes. It looks like Charles got an update. Did OVC do right by Tennessee State?
Special teams player of the week, CJ
Special
Evans.
teams.
There you go.
Yeah.
It matters. It matters, Dr. Cavil. It matters.
Oh, we know it matters. Trust me.
It mattered to us.
I went to the Texas Southern game. I know special teams matter. You ain't got to tell me nothing else. I'm still living a nightmare on that. Who was it, Charles? Let's get
Sanders Ellis was co-freshman of the week, 6'2", 225 linebacker for Tennessee State. He was a force for Tennessee State, road victory over Howard. The freshman recorded 7 tackles, 5 solo, including 1.5 for tackles for a loss. And he also had a half a sack. And then also special teams player of the week was CJ Evans. After Howard cut the Tennessee State lead to 20-14 late in the third quarter, Evans took the ensuing kickoff, 99 yards for a touchdown, pushed the score to 27-14. So he was a special teams player of the week in the OVC.
Good stuff.
I do have one thing for Hampton. Trey Everett III was the Aeneas Williams Award HBCU Defensive Back of the Week.
Good, man.
So there you go.
Show some love. I know you do your stuff, Dave, on your Wednesday Independent, but we going to show some love as well. We can do it on Tuesdays, even on our mid-major day. We going to show the Independent some love. That's why you come here, because you get it all. Now, I'm going to talk about these conferences a little bit, because y'all won't show our folks some love. We might have our own pats and fights, bats, and whatever you want to call it with our brothers, but y'all can't do them like that. We going to speak up. Y'all better get this right. Y'all better get this right. We'll be back on the other side.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up message quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less. He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I have Professor Bishop, Professor Rhodes up there, adjuncting on the site. I might have to push him up to visiting professor. He's doing a little producing on the side, man. You climbing up the ranks quickly over here inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
It's a habit of mine. I don't know why.
You at A&T over there. Y'all that R2 status. The damn nerds over there. Cool as hell. I've seen y'all all over the place. With that being said, it's time to get into the mid-major football poll rankings in week number 7. Let's see what's going on in the mid-major in week number 7. Things are starting getting really interesting as we're starting to find out who is going to position themselves to be in a position to play for a championship. Both the CIAA and SIAC play a championship game. You also have playoff positions on the line when you talk about some of the independents. CIAA may be fighting to get 2. SIAC, according to several of our D2 experts, including AD Drew, says that the SIAC is fighting to make sure they can get 1 entrance into the playoffs beyond what they do in terms of fighting for a conference championship. So what does that mean this week? Let's start things off and look at who dropped out of the poll in week number 7. Dropping out this week is Livingston Blueberries, 5-3 and 3-2. Great season. Went down to the wire in terms of their matchup, in terms of a great Saturday game. But it's just as quick as they jump into the poll, they fall out of the poll. And it's not so much in terms of them not having a really solid season, but it's so many other teams that are fighting to get in the top 7. In some ways, that's why we do a top 7, because it really lets you know the creme of the creme. And then there's something out there about 7 founders when you think about 1906. That's a little jab at you, Dave. You know how
I know it is.
Brothers out there, they all around me, great brothers, because they good. Oh, let me tell you, my producer Roy, my tailgate extraordinaire, shout out in terms of what he gets done as well. Raymond, better known as Fire around those parts. And he even was in the band, so he don't even know which side to share the love to, as he gets it all over the place. With that being said, let's get in those receiving votes. Receiving votes is Virginia State Trojans. You know, when you're 3-3, 2-1, they had a big victory. But even though they're just at 500, if they can roll it out, and you got to believe they're going to win the next 2 games if you look at records and how teams are playing, they ultimately in that last game that comes down to a rivalry game between Virginia Union Panthers and Virginia State Trojans, that could be a spot on the line in terms of CIAA championship. So that matchup could mean everything. Oddly enough, there are some scenarios that would have a rematch in the CIAA championship since they've gone without the division. With that being said, we're going to get some NAIA love. Florida Memorial has fought back, and they're back in the mix in terms of receiving votes. They sit at 3-2 and 1. They won a couple of straight. They're 2-1 as they're fighting in for the conference love for themselves. Getting into the SIAC, you have Fort Valley State that has quietly marched up the rankings as the Wildcats are 4-2, 3-1 in the conference race. They're right behind with a couple of teams sitting at 3-1. They're in the mix to find a way to get into the SIAC championship game. This is the second year for the SIAC where they've moved away from division. The top 2 teams will fight for a championship. All those 3 teams have 115 points, 113 points, 109 points respectively. With that being said, let's get to the creme of the creme. Let's get into the top 7 and see what's going on this week. At number 7, you have Clark Atlanta Panthers at 5-2 and 1, 122 points. They fall 2 spots. They lose at home to Miles. This is their homecoming. So that magical ride is on a lot of elixirs, and they need a lot of help with their second loss in conference play to find a way to get in the conference championship game. But everything shouldn't be lost in terms of this is a team last year in terms of going with 0 wins. The fact that they are right on the cusp of a winning season says a lot. Let's get into 6. That's Langston Lions, another one of those NIA teams that some people forgot about. Langston Lions got a couple of losses early in the season, but guess what? They won 4 straight, and they're 3-1 in the conference. So they were not ranked, but because of the way they're rolling right now, they've jumped back in the race, 125 points. Coach Morgan over there getting it done. We didn't think it would be long, but I was a little nervous in terms of what Coach Morgan was doing over Langston. not so fast as you all trying to put some dirt on the Langston Lions and bury them. They're going to let you know they're going to be in the mix. We'll see what it means as they continue to push forward. Let's go to number 5. At number 5, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets. Y'all told me y'all didn't want to show them a lot of love. I told you West Virginia, they were okay. But guess what? They lost the close one this past weekend, and it's dropped them 3 spots. They are now 5-2, 4-1. Be interesting to see what they do this week. Can they bounce back and continue to be in contention for a conference championship? They have 137 points in week number 7, which means now it's time to go to number 4. At number 4, Miles Golden Bears. They move up 3 spots as they previous number 7. That big road victory, homecoming victory. They go on the road to Atlanta, and they still all the shine coming out of Birmingham as they are now 5-2, 5-0. They're another one of those teams like Langston that lost the first couple of games, non-conference games, but they're rolling since they got in the conference play, and they quietly have put some solid wins together, and they had a major statement going on the road to get that win over Clark Atlanta Panthers. Now they're the only undefeated team in the SIAC, and they control a lot of their destiny going down the stretch as they will, looks like they'll be fighting for SIAC championship. We shall see. Let's get in these top 3 teams where it really gets interesting, and it's all about the CIAA, Charles.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with Winston-Salem State Rams. They've had a magical season. Everybody didn't think much about the Rams, but they've said, no, we're ready to play some football, and they're back in the football business. They are now at 6-2, 4-1, and they move up a spot, 4-1, which we'll talk about in the next segment. They set up a major top 7 matchup. We'll get a little more into after we talk about the poll rankings. But that being said, number 2, Virginia Union Panthers. A lot of folks wanted to write them off after what they had was a first loss. Let me get this correct. Against a CIAA opponent. But as you notice, they are 4-0 in CIAA play. Because of the way CIAA is set up, with St. Augustine not having a football team, some teams had already scheduled 8 games, but there's only 7 games counting towards the conference schedule. So their first game, while their opponent, it counted as a conference game because that team only had 7 games. For them, it didn't. So they're at 5-2, and beautifully, they're at 4-0, which means they're in a commanding position to fight for a CIAA championship. They also add 1 first-place vote, much like the Rams of Winston-Salem State. They have 174 points, and they also move up a spot from 3-2 as Virginia Union Panthers are back in the football business, and they're fighting for a CIAA championship as it goes down the stretch. Their next couple of games shouldn't be a big deal. So, again, it's looming that the Virginia Union Panthers and Virginia State Trojans matchup at the end of the season could have a lot of stakes on the line. With that being said, at number 1, Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls. If you had this, man, I need to know what you doing, because I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm going to Louisiana to the slot machines. I don't care what it is. Cards, David, I'm putting some money down. But I need to know who picked this at the beginning of the season. I stretched out there and said Clark Atlanta Panthers, and I look like a genius. I mean, if I had any notice, I would have put Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls, and y'all really couldn't tell me nothing. They had 7-0, 4-0. They had a nice little close game, but they do what they do. This season, they win. They are 7-0, 4-0. We had the coach on the show, and he talks about how they set up things last year for this season, and they certainly seem to know what they're doing as they're getting it done. 7 first-place votes, 198 points, first place. They are in a collision course for a championship in the CIAA. The problem is what used to be the Southern Division is where all the action is. And they got to close things out in that Southern Division to find themselves in a championship game. And while they've had a great season, it's not quite in a position where they can lock down a CIAA championship spot. Think about that. And we'll talk a little bit of what that's about when we talk about some of these key matchups coming up. But before we do that, let's give the shine to Johnson C. Smith, because this is a week-to-week poll. And right now in week number 7, the Golden Bulls, for the 7th straight week, at number 1, they are getting it done in terms of Golden Bulls out of Charlotte, North Carolina, 7-0, 4-0, 7 first place votes, 198 points. They remain at the number 1 spot. Charles, I'm going to go to you first, and then we'll come to our Professor Rhodes, Professor Bishop. What do you think about week number 7 of Dr. Cavill's 2024 HBCU mid-major division football poll rankings?
I mean, when you take a look at it week to week, I mean, these top 4, I mean, they're playing as good a football as anybody. Let me go back to something because I wanted to ask this question. So the Johnson C. Smith win over Virginia Union back in September, that didn't count in the standings?
It counted for Johnson C. Smith.
Okay.
Because they only playing 7 CIAA games.
Gotcha.
The loss did not count for Virginia Union because they ultimately played 8 games. So it's only 7 games that are counting towards each team. So the first game that any team played that was their 8th collective game they would play in CIAAs, that game would not count. So there are 2 teams that fell in that mantra, and that was actually the Virginia schools, Virginia State Trojans, right, as well as Virginia Union Panthers. Great question. Make sure we clear that up.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Johnson C. Smith, especially Brevin Caldwell went nuts. 15 receptions, 182 yards this past week. I mean, it's setting up for a tremendous matchup when you take a look at Johnson C. Smith and Winston-Salem getting it on this weekend. I'm really looking forward to the individual matchups when you're talking about Winston-Salem's running game versus Johnson C. Smith's defense. Dalen Lee going up against his defense. It's going to be fun stuff. So I know we'll get into the matchups, but you know these top 4 teams, I can't argue whatsoever.
I can't blame you, Charles. I like the way you teased it out. We're going to get into it, and you're absolutely right. People should understand that this is a big-time matchup. You got top 3 teams essentially playing next weekend, and you got a lot on the line. You got a championship spot on the line depending on how things shake out. And if you Winston-Salem State, you cannot afford to lose.
Right.
Johnson C. Smith may have a little room for error, but we'll see because now you're talking about the tiebreaker rules. With that being said, David, what do you think about the top 7 this week in terms of the quality of football at the mid-major level between the CIAA, SIAC, and some of the independents?
One thing I'll say, the CIAA has been dominating with regards to with them going up against the SIAC.
That's right.
However, Miles is legit, guys. And so it's going to be fascinating. You know, we always talk about the Celebration Bowl. At some point, we got to have the bowl with the 2 best teams. But I know it's going to take some time with the Division II playoffs. But Johnson C. Smith, the question I have is who's going to beat those guys? I mean, Winston might give them their best puncher's chance at this rate. So it's going to be fascinating this weekend. Like, I'm looking forward to the game this weekend. I know we're going to talk about it after the break, but that's going to be the one.
Did David just smoothly slow a bombshell in there talking about he wants the Celebration Bowl to feature the
I have a habit of just sliding things in.
You got folks in the SWAC talking about they want to see a SWAC championship game. Can we get over one hurdle first? I argued all last year that it wouldn't have mattered, but this year, we shall see. We'll go down the stretch. We got a couple of key matchups over there. Southern may say, hold on, not so fast in terms of the top 2 teams being in East Division. Yeah. That's a whole nother discussion. We'll probably push that back to a full discussion on Thursday. We might touch on it just a little bit today because that's a big-time matchup. But the one that I want to talk about after we come back from this break is number 1, Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls on the road in Winston-Salem State, North Carolina at Bowman Gray, because they face number 3, the Winston-Salem State Rams. We'll be right back after this break to talk about that matchup in this next segment as we come back after the break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait,
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft. Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less? You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. As we went into the break, I asked you gentlemen to let's start looking at this matchup. This is a top 3 matchup. We've had CIAA really nice matchup with top 7 teams, but I'm not sure if we had this type of matchup. One where they were ranked this high in the mid-major poll rankings. You had this much online, and certainly it hasn't been this late in the season. This is previous matchup between teams in the Southern Division. Winston-Salem State has dominated this series. It's my understanding that Golden Bulls haven't run this since the time frame when we were born. Some of us, we wasn't even a thought in our daddy's pants the last time Golden Bulls. And you all are not young puppies.
47 years since they've beaten them in Winston-Salem.
I was not going to count out no age, but I'm glad you added so people understood what I was talking about for those that just don't know. It's like that in terms of this matchup. Again, this is a matchup with number 1, Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls. They sit at 7-0 overall, 4-0. 7 first place votes in the poll rankings as released today. They've been there for 7 straight weeks. They go on the road to Bowman Gray to visit number 3, Winston-Salem State Rams, that are currently sitting at 6-2 overall, 4-1 in the matchup. David, what are your thoughts in terms of the CIAA matchup? You grew up around this area, right?
Yeah, I did. I'm from Columbia.
Institution A&T, but you know a lot about the CIAA. Obviously, it's known as basketball country. But right now, they in the football business. David, tell me a little bit about this matchup and what are your thoughts?
I think Winston-Salem State has a heck of a quarterback in Dalen Lee, but Johnson C. Smith has been doing a pretty good job defensively, and they don't have no problem getting points on the board as well. Like their opponents average only 11 points per game. They only give up 11 points per game and 30 points, and they score 30 points a game. So offensively, so this is going to be a fascinating matchup. I mean, we talked about how long it's been since we've seen Johnson C. Smith beat Winston-Salem State in Winston in Bowman Gray. But last year when they won, it was over 30 years since Johnson C. Smith actually won a game against them. So it's going to be A fascinating game this upcoming Saturday. But like WSSU Ram Nation is saying in the chat, it's going to get fascinating because there's a scenario if Winston can pull the win this weekend. In a couple of weeks, we might have 4 teams with just 1 loss. And now we'll be in tiebreaker chaos city. Yeah, and we know the SWAC West is normally known for it, but it'll be a different.
Love that. He's not able to make us today because he's moving and getting things done. But I'm sure he'll bring it up next weekend because he loves chaos. With that being said, David, everything is saying that the lower seed, Winston-Salem State, can get this, are probably getting this done. Can the Golden Bulls win this game?
I think they can. I'm picking them to win it. I mean, I think they can.
Okay.
I think they can lean on their run game. I know it's easy to go off history because of what Johnson C. Smith was.
Put it down.
Yeah, and we have to get out of that, right? So Johnson C. Smith the Golden Bulls was just a doormat. They're not a doormat anymore. And so it should be a good game. I'm going to be definitely tuned into this one. I'm looking forward to this one this weekend. But I think the Golden Bulls can absolutely get this done.
Charles, I'm going to you. Let me set you up. Just like I said, Professor Rhodes up, Professor Bishop. Number 1 versus number 3. Mid-major rankings just released today. It's a top matchup. We're not just talking about top 10. We're not just talking about top 7. Hell, we're not even talking about just top 5. This is top 3 teams.
Yeah.
The major division rankings. They all are both in the same conference. This has been a poll ranking year where CIAA has dominated the rankings. It was one time in the season where they had 5 teams at the top 7. But now it's showtime. This is previous matchup of the Southern Division. Well, that is thrown out the wizard. Now it's all about what you can do in terms of getting yourself in the number 1 and number 2 position. And Johnson C. Smith doesn't just want to win a season. They want to fight for a championship. Winston-Salem State believes they're supposed to be there. They fought back and they're in the mix. This is a 7-0 versus a 6-2 team overall in terms of their records. Winston-Salem State is at home. What are your thoughts on this matchup, Charles?
My thoughts on this is, and the big thing for me is, can Winston-Salem State win at the line of scrimmage? Trayvon Hester, number 2 rusher, I believe, in the CIAA. You got somebody who can give Johnson C. Smith some issues. And I love the Bulls defense, but there's something to be said for, a hot team playing at home and that 12th man coming into play. Got a chance to watch it last week with Jackson State and FAMU. I was telling you on Sunday, that was a high football IQ game where all the fans were into it. Can the Ram Nation come out and be that 12th man against, what has been the surprise of the season when you take a look at Johnson C. Smith? And for that reason alone, I said we're going to have some head-turner games once we get toward late October, November. This is my first head-turner. I got the Rams. I'll take the Rams for the win at the crib.
So you going with the home team. You just experienced this lately when a team came in maybe higher ranked. I will ask you from this perspective, since you shared and showed out. Does Johnson C. Smith even have a chance? Although you're going with the Rams, I can see why. They're at home and they're talented. Does Johnson C. Smith have a chance in this matchup?
Absolutely. I mean, quarterback play of Darius Ocean, talked about Brevin Caldwell going nuts last week. I mean, they have offensive firepower. And, honestly, the question is, can Winston-Salem State get some stops? What they do well is they turn football teams over. They have 11 interceptions on the season. So can they get a pick or two? Can they stop momentum? Can they figure out a way to create a turnover, create some extra possessions, and win time of possession with their running game? Those are the sorts of things that I'm looking for in this game. And I think, you just never know. If it's close going down the stretch, let's see what the 12th man does and kind of helps the home team get the win.
Let me give some shout-outs to the network. This is a game that will be featured on HBCU Go. David said he'd be watching it. You know, I've got to find my way as I'm in the mix over there trying to get things done, the Prairie View for homecoming. I'm going to find my way watching this game as we're getting ready for the Prairie View homecoming game. But this is a 1 o'clock game on the East Coast. That means high noon, big noon kickoff, Central Standard Time on HBCU Go. So it'll be televised. So those folks that can't get there in that area or coming in town, you can watch it, and you got a chance to see a top 3 matchup between Winston-Salem State and Johnson C. Smith. The Rams versus Golden Bulls. This game goes back for a while. We've been waiting 132 years for this.
See, this is you gotta be careful with these Rams, man. These are the type of comments that'll get them in trouble on Saturday.
Well, I mean, that's what our fans are about. You know, we got a lot of folks out here in this HBCU landscape that can talk, but it's fascinating. It turns up that Sunday morning. As we say on our intro on the show, you're going to do the dance when you win, but you're going to be quiet as a mouse.
Yeah.
Don't go your way. So I love it. Talk that talk as it goes down. Let's take a last break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll talk about a couple of other matchups. We'll focus a little bit on the mid-major, and we might sneak a major in. I'm going to give this a free round for all Professor Rhodes and Professor Bishop. They've been so great on the show today and just showing out. I'm going to give them a chance maybe to pick out a couple of games on their own. I'll pick up some of the other matchups. Most of the other matchups, if you would, at the mid-major level, have a ranked team versus an unranked team, and I'm not sure if any of the unranked teams are either way close. So we'll kind of point them out, let you know what's going on in that marketplace, but I can certainly understand that there may be some major division games that these guys want to call attention to as we start talking, getting you ready for week number 8, week number 7 in the matchups, actually week number 8, week number 9, after we're coming off the release of week 7 and week 8 matchups. With that being said, let's take our last break and come back on the other side and get into some of those matchups.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel. Yes! That's how you waffle!
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted CAVIL'S voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'sVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working.
Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Today we have Professor Rhodes and Professor Bishop holding it down as we get into some of these matchups. Let me get in a couple of these games just to let you know at the mid-major level. In terms of CIAA, you have number 2 Virginia Union Panthers. They are on the road against the unranked Bowie State Bulldogs. That's in Bowie, Maryland. This is a 1 o'clock Eastern time, so 12 o'clock, high noon kickoff Central time, if you would. You also have number 8 Virginia State Trojans that are at Bluefield, Big Blue. So they are on the road, Mitchell Stadium, Bluefield, West Virginia. Out of the SIAC, you have the ranked teams. They're both on the road. Number 4, Miles Golden Bears, after a big win over a top 7 team, Clark Atlanta Homecoming. They're Benedict Tigers. They are there. They're in Charles W. Johnson, Columbia, South Carolina, in terms of a matchup. And then you got essentially what would be number 10, as they're just receiving votes, Fort Valley State Wildcats. They're at Morehouse Maroon Tigers as they go into Atlanta. So you can see that all of these ranked teams in terms of the CIAA SIAC, obviously I told you about the Independence, which is West Virginia State, Langston University in terms of what they got going on. But focus on the CIAA SIAC. Do you see anything, Charles, in terms of any chance of an upset? If any team could do it, which team would you say you might give the greatest edge to between those 4 matchups when you have number 2, number 4, number 8, number 10 on the road?
You know, I'm very curious about. I know how strong Miles is, but is there any hangover after the win at Clark's homecoming? Now they got Benedict for their homecoming. So you know, on one hand, y'all calling out a bully for homecomings. That's gonna get old fast. But you know, that's one to keep an eye on. Is that a potential trap game coming off the big win over Clark?
David, same question to you. Are those 4 ranked teams, all of them on the road? The IAA, SIAC, same number of teams. Between those 4, do you see any chance of an upset, if you would, in terms of at least as the rankings? They are on the road. What do you have to say?
Can Bowie State come back post Damon Wilson? That's the only one I can see, but that's going to be tough, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know it's Benedict's homecoming for Miles, but Miles is so good. But can Bowie State pull an amazing upset? A lot of these games, none of these games could be close. I don't see any close ones. Right. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm honest with it, man.
I set it up. I mean, you're full, and I got you pulling straws and reaching a little bit.
Well, I'm beyond reaching.
Some pretty good ones when you pull one out of the SIAC, one out of CIAA, and the way that you looked at how they would get it done in terms of reaching back to the past in some ways to get it done is fascinating. Let me ask you this before we kind of turn the page and sneak in some major division. Based on what you said, David, what would Bowie State have to do to find a way to beat Virginia Union's matchup?
Stop Jada Byers. That's the only thing. Like if you
7 people to tackle Jada Byers.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, if you can get him to just 100 yards, you did all right. You did okay. You did what you need to do to have a chance to win this game.
I like
that's the key.
Good stuff. Charles, same question to you, but we're going to flip it. The one that you looked at was Mile on the Road, Benedict Tigers. What ghost of the recent past do they have to bring up? You know, Chennis Berry, as you talking about Damon Wilson and Bowie State, and both of them are in the MEAC now, which is a whole nother discussion as we get into MEAC play. But what would Benedict Tigers have to do besides being able to host homecoming? Yeah. What do they do to find a way to get a win against the Golden Bears that are extremely hot right now?
Again, I go back to does Miles have a hangover? Because there is no metric that I can point to where Benedict should be able to get the win. But if Miles comes in flat and turns the ball over, things get to happening on homecoming. Then there's a puncher's chance. But
you know what they need? They need the ghost of Kenneth Berry.
Yeah.
They need a ghost of Wilson.
They need one of those good old fashioned
come in
do some X's and O's, bring a cup of time to folks there, sprinkle it here, sprinkle it there,
How Chinnis likes to rhyme like Ali. Something.
Yeah,
I love it. Good stuff. Let's flip the page as we come up on it. We're going to find a way to sneak in a little bit in the major league. We'll do a great deeper dive in terms of these matchups. I'm going to start with the one that's probably not the top of the matchups in terms of rankings. In fact, these two teams are really outside of what we do with the top 7. But it's called the Magic City Classic for a reason in Birmingham. We're going to start there, and then we're going to let Charles get the smile on the matchup that he really got in mind. I'm going to set him up a little bit and tease it out. You got what essentially would be even outside of the receiving votes, the next team receiving votes that didn't even make it that top 10 is Alabama A&M, the Bulldogs. They're essentially at number 11. At number 8, Alabama State, that you saw ranked this past 7 receiving votes, are the Hornets. In terms of Magic City Classic, throw records out the window, but it's actually important because there's a chance in various scenarios in the East is so early that these teams are still in the mix. But you got bragging rights on the line. You got recruiting roots on the line. And how dare I say it, some folks will say, some coaching extensions may be on the line in terms of getting the next contract. Alabama State has fared very well when you talk about Coach Eddie over there getting it done. But then you got your coach over there in the background of Bulldogs. He's showing the bits. He wants to find a way to get him victory and see if he can make some of these games coming down the stretch really count for him in these Bulldogs. Neither one of these teams, again, can afford a second loss in terms of what's going on. So, Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of this match?
Backs up are against the wall in this game, but if I had to go with a team, I think Alabama A&M, just from the standpoint, I think they have the steadier quarterback play, and of course you have a Hoss and Donovan Eaglin in the backfield. But I would just think Alabama A&M has enough offensive firepower to figure out a way to get a couple of touchdowns in on this Alabama State defense. And I'm going to be struggling to really find where Alabama State has enough offense against a team not named Mississippi Valley. I think that's the thing that I'm looking down the stretch with regards to Alabama State, because they're literally playing with a converted wide receiver at quarterback.
Yeah, we got to put that out there. That is the case. Essentially, fifth string quarterback, if you would, that deep on the depth chart. You got a team, Alabama A&M, that is playing pretty good football, ranked really high in terms of the offensive in the last couple of weeks. They've been able to get it going. You got Alabama State that has a championship-level defense, but you just heard the problems of what's going on the offensive side of the ball. So in terms of your chess match, you can either look at a top-ranked offense versus a top-ranked defense, or you can look at the other side of the ball in terms of offense that's struggling for Alabama State and a defense that maybe people have some questions about against Alabama A&M Bulldogs. In terms of the Magic City Classic, biggest tailgate out there in terms of HBCU, what we tell everybody, this is a bucket list game to get going on. David, what are your thoughts in terms of what's taking place in this matchup?
All right, you back? Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, I picked Alabama State on HBCU Nightly on Sunday. I'm hoping that the defense can get them where they need to be. I'm not a believer in Alabama A&M's defense like that, so I'm hoping offensively they'll be able to get just enough points to get through. I know Alabama A&M's offense is really good, but typically when you have a really high-powered offense and a really good defense, the defense tends to win these games, man. So I know how bad the quarterback situation is, but I got Alabama State in this one.
Yeah, we kind of seen that past weekend when we looked at top FCS ranked teams versus each other, and certainly top 7 teams in our poll rank. Talking about top 7 teams in our poll ranking, let's turn the page and probably look at our last matchup. I'll give you a chance to see if there's anything else that has your eyes. But the one I want to focus on is this top 7 matchup with Southern Jaguars going on the road to a place that has been very difficult, whether you're talking about SWAC or the MEAC, for opponents to come in and win, which is in Tallahassee, Bragg Memorial Stadium. And the Rattlers will tell you that they brag differently. When they come in number 7 after a tough road loss, they want to find a way to get back on the winning ledger. But can they do that with a red-hot Southern team that just knows how to win late in games? And they actually had a dominating win in many facets of the game against a team that many people thought the Braves were going to come in there and continue their streak of being able to win down in Mumford Stadium in Baton Rouge on the Bluff. With that being said, sticking with you, David, and I'll let Charles close it out with this top 7 matchup. 5 versus number 7 in terms of rankings that we released on Sunday. Jaguars versus the Rattlers. This is the longest matchup when you talk about between these two teams at one time in a conference matchup that went on for decades. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup between the Jaguars and the Rattlers?
So prior to the season, I said that the home streak for FAMU is going to end, and I think it's going to happen this weekend against Southern. I think Southern's offensive line has been playing really well. They've come along over the past few weeks. They have a really good run game. I think they're going to be able. I've always thought that FAMU's a second half team, so it's imperative that Southern has to start fast here. But I think Southern's going to finally do it. I think Southern's going to end that home streak this weekend.
So we're going to sneak that in. We'll see if Charles can get back in. If not, we'll certainly make sure he can get his comments, as I know a lot of people were anticipating what he thought, and he really wanted to get some comments on this. You know, I'll be back, and I look like I've changed some plans. It's my understanding that the campaign rally for Kamala Harris, a vice president, as she is looking for the presidential nomination, she'll be in Houston this Friday. So I'm excited about that. And so I'm going to make sure I get back in terms of being able to support that before I do my things at the Prairie View A&M homecoming. With that being said, as we try to hold on and sneak Charles back in here, we'll make sure we'll get his comments on this top 7 matchup with number 5 Southern Jaguars versus number 7. Obviously, a lot is on the line with FAMU cannot afford another loss in terms of what's taking place with them. They're essentially 2 games back of Jackson State when you look at the head-to-head. So another loss would really kick them out. Southern has found a way to be at the top of the Western Division, but this is the chance to close things back out. So they really want this win because now they control stuff. Charles, let me go ahead and get your thoughts on this 5-7 matchup between the Jaguars and the Rattlers before we call it a show.
I know Southern has had the ability to run the football all season. They hadn't shown it until this past game against Alcorn. And what better team to try to get this running game up and going again because against FAMU, because FAMU has shown they have not had the ability to really stop the run this past season, which is, really surprising when you take a look at the talent on the defensive side of the ball. The more Southern's able to run the ball, they're better able to protect Noah Biden. In terms of just not having so many passing attempts downfield and sort of opening yourself up for potential turnover. So that being said, got to take the Rattlers in this one.
Yeah, Charles is just setting it up for next year when Jackson goes in the Florida to make sure that they end the streak. He don't want his rival Southern to end the streak before they do. I know how you set things up. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the HBCU Lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, with 2 members of the team. As we like to shut it out, I want to thank Professor Rhodes, Professor Bishop, Professor Rhodes for doing the production on this show. Really enjoyed the dialogue and all that. Again, as I talked about the campaign, I was so excited about a lot of folks that I'm connected to. They're able to get out on to vote already. Obviously, in the state of Texas, the early voting period just opened yesterday, and there's a lot of folks, particularly black men, that have been kind of the punching bag. I've seen so many of folks in my different groups that I'm in. This is across the board, various areas, getting out and representing and making sure that they show that they voted and cast their vote. Again, Charles, as it kind of went off, Kamala Harris, Vice President, seeking the presidential. She'll be in Houston, campaign rally in Houston, Texas this Friday. So I was telling everybody I'll be back out of Washington, D.C. To make that happen. With that being said, I want to say thank you again for listening for Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, David Rhodes, every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Sundays at 9 o'clock. We'll give you updates after big matchup weekends. We look forward to Thursday as we discuss the latest news in the lab. We'll see where I'm at that time. I'll be moving around. We'll see where we do the show, and we'll keep that as a tease. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, DrKenyattacavil. I call it Twitter because I can. Facebook and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. Get out there and vote. Exercise your right. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
David.
Lecture.
Dismiss.